Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Because those cups are limited edition, Brains.
Yeah.
Where you at? You at home. You're on the edge with me and Melissa Z. White. Melissa, what is that Z for?
Oh, that's Zendarsic. That was my maiden name before I got married.
Zendarsic. Oh, I like that. That's pretty good. I thought it stood for zest.
Wow. Yeah, that too. I like to think of it as Zen. Yeah.
Absolutely. All of the above. Well, because there's a lot of Zen in what you do. Brains, we have a person here that is super smart. Okay.
Thank you.
She works in say it again for me,
Neurophysiology.
Neurophysiology. And she works in the OR at the hospital. In addition to that, she's a health coach, a life coach, and a hypnotherapist. She's doing the most. But all of it has to do with the brain, okay? It all has to do with our heads. And so what's dancing around in our heads right now? You know, and she knows down to the cellular level what's going on. So let's welcome her to the edge. Hello, Melissa.
Hello, April. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for wanting to be halved. Yeah, the edge is a real cool place. You know, it's a real cool place because we just give it to people 110%. You know, we make no bones about it. It's not just about your deliverable, but what you do, but the backstory, how you got there and how you show up in the world. So let's start with that.
That's right. Yeah, I started off in neurophysiology and was working in the hospital, recognized that, you know, I love to help people. I love being a part of their health and their journey and becoming a better person, becoming healed. And I went on that path to become a neurophysiology technologist, and that's what I work in on the day-to-day basis. But in that journey, my life has brought my own personal challenges. It started with my health. After the delivery of my daughter, I started having a lot of mysterious symptoms and went on a long journey trying to figure out what was going on with me. And now I have a medical background and, you know, approached these doctors, and it took a long time for them to take me seriously, for them to, you know, figure out what was going on with me. And at the end of it, they found that I have an autoimmune disease. It's incurable. And really, there's not a whole lot that they can do for treatment. So I was pretty much stamped with a diagnosis and, you know, good luck. Hope you can figure out how to live a better life, but we don't really have much to offer you. And I just, you know, I'm stubborn by nature, and I just refused to accept that that was going to be my life, living with those symptoms. And I set out on a journey to figure it out based on my own, education and medical, and, you know, listening to my body and, you know, just listening to my gut, what was right for me. And I started trying different things to find a better life, to minimize those symptoms and create a much better lifestyle. I was, you know, a young mom, and I was a breadwinner. I couldn't, you know, be handicapped by my illness. So,
all right, let's dial back. Okay. What steps did you take? What was one of the first things that you did when you tried to heal yourself, when you were not accepting no for an answer? You said, oh yeah, there's a yes out there. I'm going to find it.
Right. Well, first and foremost is having the mindset of not accepting that this is all that there is, and just having the mindset to be confident enough in just because they don't know doesn't mean that there's not an answer.
Right. So
first it was just convincing myself that there was that possibility. After that, it was really the most valuable thing I did was assess patterns. What was making me feel ill, right? When I was having the worst of the symptoms, what was I doing? What was I eating? You know, what was my lifestyle like? And I just started to pay attention real closely to patterns. And then with that information, I started, you know, basically some trial and error of rerouting those patterns. What can I do differently what can I try to take out? So for me, I really focused on the concept after assessing my patterns for my health. I really deduced that it was inflammatory. So for my body, there was all this inflammation. A lot of it was coming from diet. A lot of it was coming from stress. A lot of it was coming from exhaustion, just overworking myself, those sorts of things. So when I recognized that inflammation was probably the most significant culprit, I just really started to go, okay, well, what do I have control over?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I should be floating around tethered to a string because I got all that going on. Okay, I got the inflammation.
Right.
You know, my husband is telling me that I'm overworking. I don't feel that like I'm overworking. He says, "Baby, you're stressed." I don't feel like I'm stressed. You know, and
right. Well, sometimes it's all that good stress. And when we are passionate about our jobs, we don't realize how much we're burdening our bodies. And, you know, it's harder to pay attention to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, you know, that's like when he said that, I said, well, you know, let's go canoodle. De-stress me, Dad. De-stress.
And that helps.
Yeah, do what you do. Okay, so you find yourself and you find these patterns because, again, I was going through some heavy menopausal trips. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did was start keeping a journal. Food journal. You know, what I was intaking, how long did it take before I got the symptoms, you know, all those things. So again, brains, documentation, number one, because then you can always go back. You can see what time of day, you know, how you were feeling, where you were. It might be your environment, any of that. All right. So now you do that. And so then you say, I'm going to take charge.
Yes.
What was your second step?
Yeah, so my second step was looking at the factors that I had control over, which was, you know, to some degree, getting more sleep, minimizing stress a little bit in my lifestyle. But that only went so far. And then I really started attacking my nutrition. And, you know, I started looking at foods that, you know, influence your inflammation in the body, you know, foods that are known to trigger more inflammation. And I started reducing them. For me, the biggest culprit was gluten. And honestly, at the time, I thought the gluten-free diet was kind of like, oh, this is the next fad, whatever. But I was so desperate to turn my situation around that I tried it. And, you know, heaven forbid, like I was onto something then.
I had no idea, but I'm addicted to bread. Girl, I love me some bread. That is my PB&J, okay? And I wasn't realizing how much bread I was eating because I'd have some toast in the morning and then you have a sandwich and then you have a dinner roll. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know? And all the carbs that go along with it. But gluten, they used to then put that in food. Did they just start that? What is that?
Well, gluten is naturally occurring in wheat and different grains. The thing is, I think, and I've heard other experts talk about this to some degree, but it gets minimized because we don't really want to look at it, is that all the GMO that we're doing has increased by 500% the amount of gluten that we're getting in our bread today versus what we got back in like the 50s, right? So our bodies are able to handle it to a certain degree, but now that we have been manipulating our food source for so long, we're getting like these power punches of gluten and it builds up in our system. The gluten literally begins to act like glue in our intestines. It coats the inside and then we're not getting the nutrients that we need from our food as well. And then we eat more because we're nutrient starved and then we have obesity and we're just creating this toxic, stressful environment because we're playing with our foods. You know, a lot of people, it's controversial, you know, but they are doing more and more studies about that. And I know it makes common sense to go natural, right? The more natural your food is, the healthier.
I had somebody on my show and we went at it, okay? And that's what we do. You know, we can agree to disagree.
Sure.
But she was saying, oh no, you know, I said this GMO, you know, genetically modified food and the cross-pollination of the corn and a particular company. I'm not even going to talk about them. I don't want them on my back, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And the corn and the wheat, and it's awful. It's awful. Yeah. But you know what they're doing too? And I'm just going to throw this out there. They're doing it to the marijuana.
Yes. Yeah. Well, whenever
and people think that, marijuana is, you know, it's safe and, you know, the CBD oil and this, that, and the other. Believe me, those seeds are being genetically modified.
Yeah, the problem we have, I think, is that greed starts to take over. So once there's money involved, we look for ways to maximize that naturally, and it doesn't always lead to the best choices.
It doesn't.
And we don't see those results long term, so we think, oh, it's okay. It takes a long time for some of that to unfold before we recognize it probably wasn't the best.
Listen, let me ask you about brainwashing.
Oh.
Now, I've got an upcoming guest that has been under the spell of a guru for 30 years. 30 years.
That's a long time.
What is up with, how do you get brainwashed?
Well, essentially, it also comes down to like neuroplasticity and rewiring those brain mentality patterns, right? It's repetitive over time, and over 30 years, they are hearing the same thing. And generally, for somebody to become part of a cult and brainwashed and that sort of thing, it's somebody who really isn't solid within themselves anyway. So they are looking to become part of a collective. They are looking to join in to find it generally starts innocently and just trying to find somewhere that they fit, a family, so to speak. And then because they're not very solid in their own mindset, they can more easily be swayed into somebody else's line of thinking. And then when you have somebody that's manipulative and using that in, a negative way, they're going to convince you to think things that,
well, and
I'm not organically from you.
I'm not trying to be political, but I am. There was one particular person in the White House that would say things over and over and over and over till you start to believe it. You knew it was a lie. And I had never seen that. And I had never seen a real narcissist. People always try to, it's another ugly word that they put out there, but it can be such an influence. And if you ingrain that, if you keep telling me the sky is orange, I don't care if I look up at it and it's blue. Don't believe what you see. It's really orange. You really start, that brainwave starts to, again, like you say, go from A to B. That's where it's going all the time. And it just focuses on it. That's pretty scary.
Right. It's
but
that
in a way, it's kind of but it's kind of a gift too.
Exactly. And so it really comes down to, it's the same concept, right? But the user is what it becomes different. So when you have a personality that's, as you said, like, let's just use that for an example, a narcissistic personality, and they're gaslighting all the time, and they're, distorting things, and they're repeating it over and over and over and over, you're going to go, wait a minute, maybe I am seeing it wrong. And you start to question yourself, and then you start to, get patterned and conditioned to that. But that same concept can be used for good when you're doing self-meditation, when you're doing hypnosis, and you're rewiring your brain to change negative things into positive patterns and positive mindset, and building your confidence and defining who you are and breaking old unhealthy patterns, So it's similar. It's just who's driving the bus, right?
Let me ask you one other thing. Brain tumors.
Okay.
I have a friend that has a brain tumor.
Okay.
That's not necessarily a death sentence, is it?
No, not always. It really depends on, there's so many variables there. Location, what exact type of tumor it is. And we are doing so much more research on the very specified types of tumors and pathology, and then what specific treatments are best for that type of tumor. And
they're also doing a lot of minimally invasive surgeries now, with these cannulas. I used to work with a company that did spinal technology, because she's, they're going to shave my head and they're going to bust my, my noggin and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to be a person of support. I can't, I don't know. I don't do it for a living, but I want to be encouraging. So I want to ask an expert that there is hope, there's options, and it's not the end.
There is absolutely hope. And the number one thing you can do is keep your spirits up. any negativity, once you start to feel those things, and it's understandable, it is a very scary thing for people to hear that they have a tumor and then that they might have to have surgery for it. Those are very scary things. So it's easy for somebody to slip into that fear and that negativity. And when you do, you're already handing so much of your power over. So as a patient, it's number one, the best thing you can do is to try to stay hopeful, try to stay positive, keep your mind in a happy, positive place. So a brain tumor isn't necessarily a death sentence. I know people who've lived with tumors for years and years and years. There's so many variables. Is it slow growing? What type is it? What is the exact specific pathology? What treatments are available to that individual? Do they have any other comorbidities? How's their health otherwise? So there's a lot that goes into it. So the best thing is really just kind of get those answers. What is it that we're dealing with? Where is it? I mean, I've been in numerous brain surgeries and, seen many success stories.
Can you explain two other things, because we don't want to talk too much about your career, but you are the subject matter expert. So I want to ask, when a person has an aneurysm,
okay,
and when a person has a stroke,
okay,
well, how does that connect in the brain?
All right. Well, a stroke basically is where blood flow ceases to move correctly in the brain, to put it very simply. So there's a hemorrhagic stroke, and that's where you have a vessel that actually bursts, or an aneurysm. An aneurysm is like a bubble on a blood vessel. So a weakened wall of that vessel starts to kind of like fill up and create a pocket. And then it becomes weaker and weaker. It becomes a little balloon, a little bubble off of the vessel at large that you want. So you can have an aneurysm and not have it rupture. And you can have an aneurysm for a long time and it not be known to be a problem because your blood flow is still functioning properly through your brain. So if that were to burst, that would become a hemorrhagic stroke. A stroke can also be just like an occlusion of your blood vessel, and then the blood isn't moving to where it needs to be. It's not feeding the brain tissue how it needs to. Okay. And then there's TIAs. You might have heard that. People call them small strokes. That's a transient ischemic event. So the blood flow kind of gets blocked or occluded, or the vessels constrict, and it's temporary. And they generally don't have lasting effects, but you might have stroke-like symptoms for a very short period of time.
Yeah, because I know that there's a lot of women that are falling victim to stroke, and heart disease and all that. So I just kind of wanted to give them a definition, an understanding. We are not trying to diagnose you. We're not doctor. I mean, she might be a doctor. She's brain. But again, we want to give you information, and that's what we are. We are an information superhighway. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, baby doll. So I am going to. So now you are life coaching. Why do you want? Okay. Let me ask you this. What makes you the subject matter expert that you can coach somebody's life?
Well, I personally have turned my life around. I have gone through ups and downs of my own. I have been at rock bottom before, and I have utilized these techniques, my success strategies in my own life in order to turn my life around and create my dream life that I'm living today. And it's all just a matter of it started with health, and taking that concept of finding patterns and turning them around into things that work for you rather than work against you. And I have just pivoted that same theory into overall life and different facets of my own life. So what I teach all of my clients and what I help them work with are the exact same concepts and strategies that I have used to create my own dream life.
Okay, well, that's absolutely wonderful. But you're going to run into that client that's not wanting to do the work. They want Melissa to have the secret sauce. They want you to just come in abracadabra and do everything that they should be doing for themselves. So the person is struggling right now. What do you say to them? Where do they begin? Do they start with a list like we did with our diet?
Well, often it takes us recognizing who we are. And I think that's where people get stuck. The majority of my clients tend to be middle age, they've had some level of success and then they've stalled out, or they become unhappy and stuck in where they're at and they don't know how to move forward or what direction to go. And so they're struggling. They've gotten settled in this comfort zone. They're not happy, but don't quite know what to do, and sometimes don't really have the drive to do the work. They just want somebody to come in and fix it for them. Right. You know, and so it starts with an assessment, just, you know, just like I illustrated with my health, for example. It starts with an assessment. Okay, what's not working here, right? Who are we right now today? So when it comes to life coaching, I start looking at the person. All right, where are we at? What are you happy with? What are you not happy with? We basically do what I call like a wheel of life, and we look at all these areas of life and we rate them. Where are you today and where would you like to be on a scale from 1 to 10? And by doing that, it really makes us check in on all these other areas that we're not necessarily thinking are issues, and taking a look at them and seeing where we need to focus. When we look at the wheel of life, we have a visual of what areas to attack first. A lot of times people come to me and they think, well, you know, I just want to lose 20 pounds, or, you know, I'm having a little bit of trouble in my relationship. You know, I just want to work on that. And when we peel back the layers by doing this assessment, we start to really find that the issue isn't what they think on the surface, but it's something deeper. And once we start working at that deeper level, everything else starts to fall into place. Everything else starts to move and change in a better way, and work with them rather than against them, because we're working on the actual issue.
So that's where you tap into the subconscious mind with hypnotherapy. That's right. Sometimes I can take myself down. Oh yes, girl, I put myself in a trance one time. It was a trip. It was a real trip, but it was worth the gas. Oh yes. And so there's so many different types of hypnotherapy, different techniques that people use. Why did you use that? And maybe it's because too of the work that you do, your full-time gig, you understand the brain. You understand, it's mapped out for you. You studied that. Right. I literally have spent years studying brainwave activity. That's a huge part of what I do, and how your electrical system in your body works within you and externally, right? So studying brainwaves has been something I've done for years, and I have a very strong understanding of how hypnotherapy works in changing those brainwaves, and at what state you need somebody to be in that activity in order to start to rewire, so to speak, their thought processes. When we do things the same way for so many years, it creates a very clear-cut neural pathway. Goes from A to B all the time. Okay, so I do this and it automatically goes here. And that's why habits are so hard to break. It's been wired to go this way over the course of years. And every time we do it, we're just reinforcing that neural pathway. So hypnotherapy puts us in a different brainwave pattern that you're more suggestible. You're not going to do anything you don't really want to do. I'm not going to make you quack like a duck if you don't want to quack like a duck. That's the first thing people think. They think that this is some carnival sideshow, Right. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. Your consciousness will come in and stop that. But by putting you in a different brainwave state, it allows you to be more suggestible, and it starts to tone down that automatic neural pathway and allow you to create other pathways, allow you to detach emotions from certain things so that you can work forward. We'll rewire those thought processes. We'll break down those bad habits, reinforce them with better habits, that sort of thing. So I use hypnotherapy quite a lot, but I honestly don't use it with all of my clients. It depends on what their needs are. Everything I do is customized. Let me ask you a question. How do you start to take someone down? And because you know what? You've got to also be willing and open to receive this. Right. That's why I don't use it with everybody. Not everybody is going to be open to the experience. And if you're not open to anything, if you're closed-minded, you're not going to be willing to look at anything or try anything. So I select that tool, so to speak, that tool that I use to work with people in their therapy very selectively. I don't do it with everybody. So
If somebody I think is a good candidate for it, we'll use it. And then there's different ways of bringing somebody into that brainwave activity going into hypnosis. For the overthinker, the one whose mind is running nonstop,
monkey mind.
Yeah, somebody who's very quick-witted, somebody who's thinking very quickly all the time. The technique to get them into hypnosis is going to be much different than the technique that I will use for somebody who is more willing to be able to relax into the process.
And you know what, another thing they're afraid of? They're afraid of what's been revealed after. And the coming back,
Yes.
There's 95% of our brain we don't even use. We don't even know, you got 4 or 5 people running around in there. It's like a jungle gym. And you really don't know, but you can't be afraid. I am a person that is a little nervous, but I'm going to do it eventually. I want to do a past life regression.
Oh, yes.
Because I know there's a message there for me, and I'm not afraid, but it's got to be somebody that I trust, because trust is a big factor here.
Exactly. Trust is a huge factor for hypnotherapy, for past life regression. It's really what it boils down to.
Life coaching. You gotta trust the person, the life coach.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Coaching, any kind of therapy, if you don't have a level of trust, you're not gonna go very far. You have to be able to build that trust bond in order to work with somebody. I mean, we're talking about things that people, might have hidden in their, dark recesses for a long time, but this is the work that we have to do to heal and move forward. And obviously it takes trust in order to be willing to do that.
And the big thing now too, that is flying off everybody's tongue is generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. that it's been going on, and I've talked to so many people that hurt people.
Yes.
And
exactly.
To stop that cycle, because now it's going down into your genomes. I mean, it's going down to the cellular level, this pain and anxiety. And that's crazy.
Right. And then, you've brought up past life regression. Well, then what we bring forward from our past lives, the trauma from our past that is, woven into the tapestry of who we are today, and how do we heal that? So there, I mean, you can go real deep into this.
Oh yeah. Sure. Okay. Well, that's why I have you here on the edge. All right. So let me ask you some fun questions.
Okay.
Unusual questions. What would you tell a 25-year-old Melissa?
What would I tell 25-year-old Melissa myself?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have to think back. Where was I at 25 in my life? I was pretty fearless even then, but I think I would encourage my 25-year-old self to be even more fearless in recognizing what satisfies me and detethering that from the societal pressures of what we're being programmed and marketed to want for ourselves.
Right.
At 25, I was okay, young marriage and get the house and all of that. Not that I don't still like those things today, but separating the pressure that I felt externally to do those things and really following my heart and listening to my heart more. And I think if I had recognized that lesson more intrinsically at 25, it could have saved me some heartache.
Well, but again, if you didn't learn the lesson, you wouldn't know the value.
Right.
Now, what would you tell a 65-year-old Melissa?
Oh, 65-year-old Melissa, keep moving forward. Don't listen to anybody in the sense of, defining who you are except yourself, but always keep an open mind. And that's something I try to teach my kids as well today, so that they kind of have that mindset earlier, is define who you are for yourself. Be open-minded and consider the viewpoints. But at the end of the day, don't do just what people tell you. Do what you recognize is right for you.
Okay, that's powerful. What are 3 things that you just can't live without?
Well, now my husband and kids. I couldn't imagine my life without them.
No.
My morning coffee and my meditation.
Yeah, well, we gonna drink a coffee here on our Brains Cup. Apples, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you know, I was telling somebody else I had to pull back on my meditation because my meditations was heavy. They were heavy, and I was getting these downloads.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in tune, and I had to ask permission. Can you slow that down? Because I'm doing too much. And so I kind of backed out. But you know, don't overthink it, Brains. And that's what I was doing. I was overthinking it. I own that.
Right.
And so maybe that's where the stress was coming from. Maybe that was where the overeating was coming from, you know, and the inflammation.
Right.
All that. So I tap into
those downloads are a beautiful thing when we have them. But yeah, I mean, sometimes when we open that door and we ask for the information, you get quite a tidal wave, don't you? Sometimes, you know,
and you feel that you have to act upon. Some of them is just data collecting. You know, it's like it's putting things into your database. You don't necessarily have to do anything with it, but I'm thinking, okay, you got to act on this because, you know, God's source energy is, you know, giving you a gift. You know, you have to do it. But sometimes it's just to sit in the moment and just enjoy it. And I've enjoyed you so much. Tell my Brains how to get in contact with you, and so they can do some work and, you know, check into their brain.
Sure. Well, my website is melissazcoaching.com, and I have been going through some rebranding, so things are constantly changing on the website right now, but you'll see some information about me, what I do, some of the programs coming out very soon. My next group program that I'm launching is Elevate Your Body. It's a 12-week program about how to tap into our physical health, elevate that. And, you know, the reason for that is because this is our vehicle that we're doing all the larger work with. So we need to strengthen that and make that healthy. So that'll be starting next month in May, and that's a 12-week program. And I'm going to be posting that on the website here real soon. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook, Melissa Z Coaching. I'm there too.
I love the cover of your website, the black and white and the bronzy black lipstick. Girl, that's the business. And something else that's drawing my eye. Girl, that brain pillow in the back.
Ah, yes, my brain pillow.
Yeah, tell me offline. Yes, where did you get that? I love that. I need that.
Actually, that was a gift. And then the one behind it, let's see, I have my brain here, and then I have, this is actually part of my father's fatigues. He's no longer with us, and my mother made that pillow for me out of my dad's old fatigues. I just love it. But the one behind, it's black and white, and it actually has brainwave patterns on it.
Wow. You know,
talking about all of that.
And that was something that I experienced too. The first time that I really realized that I put myself down into a hypnotic state was I saw colors. And it was beautiful. It was psychedelic. And I was like, I don't take LSD. What is this?
Yeah, for everybody, it could be a little bit different. I do too. I also see the colors.
See the colors
too. And I see things haloed in colors.
I see auras too.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
And it's such a gift. It's such a gift. And, you know, you think that, you know, you're in a different place. So I know for me personally that there is somewhere after this that's going to have some beautiful colors, and it is going to open portals, and it's going to open my mind. My past life is again, a portal to my future. And I love talking to people like you, Melissa. I love the work that you do. And again, in the medical profession, thank you for that too, because we need super smart people, empathetic people, and you've taken it to the next level. And I love you for that. Thank you so much for being here on the edge. Okay. Brain, go and sign up, okay, for other edgy conversations. Melissa's going to come back because she's going to write a book. She's going to make it interactive to make it easier for her. Maybe I'll hook you with my friend, the App Mama. And
sounds great.
Create your own app. So thank you so much. Go and check out everything on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, yada, yada. Keep your brain as clean as you can, and the heart will surely follow.
Thank you.
Thank you.